big festival? Huh? Marriage. Oh, best of festivals. Lots of noise too. Lots of drums at least. So I'm going to read what my assignment is for this morning and then kind of edit it a little bit. I'm supposed to share my insights on, quote, strategic, mature, and effective preaching. Strategic, mature, and effective preaching. Insights on strategic, mature, and effective preaching. Well, one is turn off your mobile phone. That's something that's mature and effective, so it doesn't get interrupted. I have 3 thoughts to share for this morning, and then we'll see the questions and answers section. My primary place of engagement is not in India, and yours is in India, so I could say, you probably know better than I do what's going to be effective, strategic, mature, and effective, at least what's going to be effective. The last time, for example, the last time I was here, I think it was the last time I was here, I met with some devotees who are working on a very sophisticated project of, I don't know what they call it, but something in the direction of what you call in India value education or something like that, where the principles of Krishna consciousness are presented without so much the connection to the institution or the organization, but the values, the principles, and how important they are and how to develop them. And from that, then, step by step. So it's kind of like using the metaphor of a bridge. We're over here, and we construct a bridge. Well, we go to where they are, and wherever that is, and we just spend some time with them doing what's important to them. And at least, the educators and the parents of children are concerned about the erosion of the culture. Not only in India, all over the world. Again, because I visit in China, it's a big deal for the Chinese government and the educators, is that as modernization is increasing, let's say in India and in China, the values of traditional culture are just getting washed away. And as not only as each generation passes, but each decade passes, as each year passes, as each half a year passes, just look around and see it getting eroded faster and faster. And I don't need to give anecdotal examples of it. You see it abundantly. Just your eyes are open. You'll see it abundantly. Or feedback from people that grew up in India, went to America, did their higher studies in America, got settled in a job, and then come back to their place. And they report to me, they're shocked to see, the whirlpool has gone down and down and down, and they don't even recognize how people dress and speak and behave, and they're shocked. And it's not just India. There's one very nice devotee couple from Poland, spent years and years, a decade or 15 years in America. The wife felt nostalgia for going back to her country. She went back and she was shocked. I don't want to be there. The values have changed so much. So, Kali Yuga is advancing rapidly, largely with the assistance of, our dear friend technology. It just accelerates degradation faster. Not only information sharing, but everything else that's connected with it, without all the details. Relationships it's so common just to see 2 people, 3 people, 4 people walking down the street together, and every one of them's on the phone or texting. They're not even dealing with each other. Like, relationships have just become so weak. Therefore, the reaching out and connecting with people on things that are important to them, and at least, in the field of parenting and education, it's values. Then one who does that value education learns quickly. Without a spiritual core, it doesn't happen. Just keeping it short. It doesn't happen. There has to be a spiritual core. I've had educators that have dedicated 30 years to trying to transmit values through education, where in America, you can't bring God into the schools. So you try to teach values without God, and it doesn't work, in short. But make some effort through one means or another, and a mature, strategic, and effective method is reaching youth, just a principle, because they're more fluid, flexible, and less fixed in their ways. They're oriented towards things that are unwholesome, that at least fascinate them in so many ways, largely related to technology. But connect with things that you understand they value, and then somehow somehow means according to the audience and so forth, bring the spiritual core into the center. It's not a trick, it's a reality that's not going to happen without a spiritual core. And in those exchanges, and any kind of exchanges of mature, strategic, and effective reaching out, is the relationship. We all know this. Relationship means everything. Persons that come regularly to visit anything, visit the center, we'll just say, the temple, they're looking forward to meet somebody. There's a relationship with someone that they feel is meaningful to them. So they aside from the rituals, meaning come and see the deity and offer some prayers and put something in the hundi box and etc. Aside from the ritual, the thing that really moves the heart is the relationship. So when can bear in mind that it's very important to make a connection on a personal level with people. Best is the person who makes that initial contact. But then after some time, there's a threshold of how many people someone doing outreach can keep in touch with. Just like take, for example, book distribution. years of involving myself in book distribution taught me a certain set of lessons. One, book distribution is for everybody. Say it the opposite. There's nobody that's not a candidate for getting the opportunity at least to receive a book. And then out of those everybody's that have at least an opportunity, some receive the book. And the exchange for the people that don't take a book and the people that do take a book, the important irreplaceable element is they have a good experience in interacting with you. Not just they buy the book, but they feel, oh, this is a good person. Because of the qualities that you carry and the way that you communicate and so forth. And then out of those people that take the book and have that good experience, good regard, basically saying, the Hare Krishna people are nice. Whether they take the book or don't take the book. There's some people that, from experience, in the course of the day, maybe one, maybe two, maybe even three people, they're really special. And then take that information from that person, a phone number or whatever works, and reach out after, oh, it was really nice. And then out of those, maybe in the course of the week, one or two will say Haribol back. Because there was the moment and then there's distraction. It's just the way life is. But then keep in touch with those people and encourage those people. Now just some scriptural support for what I just said. It's a really nice section I like because I heard Srila Prabhupada speak on this. Krishna's discussion with Balaram being in the forest of Vrindavan, in seeing the trees. There's this whole section about Krishna's appreciation of the trees. And he steps back and says, Balaram, just see how these trees are worshiping you. They're bowing down before you, laden with fruits and flowers, dropping their fruits and flowers at your feet, making worship of you. And not only worshiping you, but they're serving others with everything that they have. It's the way of the life of trees. And like that goes on and on. And these are surely saintly people. In the dress of a tree, but saintly people. And then he makes this wonderful statement that a saintly person's life is meant for serving others. And the ways that one can serve others are by giving one's life, giving one's wealth, or giving one's words. And Prabhupada spent a whole class describing that. In our reaching out, some people may give their life. Just they're so moved by the message. If they don't give their life, some persons offer the fruits of their work. They give some wealth that they've accumulated instead of for their personal needs, they do for Krishna. And others may not do those first two, but they should at least give their words of appreciation. And they should say, oh, the Hare Krishna people are nice. And if it's the other way, then we're doing a disservice. If we interact with others in such a way, they say, the Hare Krishna people are not nice. That's disservice. So, mature, effective, and strategic outreaches, those elements are there. And my message is, in this category, especially important are young people. And so there's different categories of young people and different modalities for young people. We've already touched on this effort that's being made by some. I know others elsewhere that are doing it slightly differently and slightly differently and slightly differently. But the principle is touch the hearts and the minds of persons that are in that flexible stage of their life. They're forming their values and their opinions about the world that they find themselves in, particularly in a fluid period of time as college age. Of course, in India, there's abundant effort in this regard, but it's mature and strategic and effective. And somebody may not be the best person, so it's good that we have at least a good person, if not the best person, and then others can be supportive in various ways. And one of the ways to be supportive is, as already mentioned, just be warm and kind. I'll share this. So now I'm moving into the second area. The second area is to have effective outreach is to have very nice relationships amongst the devotees, because when people come, having met somebody that they appreciate, and they come to the center and they see a big disconnect between that person and our teachings and the way everybody behaves with one another, it's a turnoff. You won't see them again. Or if you see them again, it's going to be, from a distance, because they'll say, I don't really want to be part of this kind of interaction. And people notice. I mean, if you have discussions with these people, you'll know. They notice. I'll just give one example of an anecdote. Well, two. Some devotee couple that did their education in America started from Andhra. They started visiting such and such temple. I won't give the name of the temple. And they went every Sunday for like 4 months. And nobody said boo or hello or nice to meet you, who are you, and nothing. So after 3 to 4 months, they shrugged their shoulders and thought, maybe we'll go look for some other place. But they came one more time and somebody received them. Oh, that was nice. And not only they received them, but then they called them afterwards. Oh, that was really nice. And then not only that, they paid a visit and brought some prasadam from the temple. And they thought, wow. So it's not all like that 3 to 4 months. There are some people that are warm and friendly. So they shared this with me. They then started coming on a regular basis, looking for that one person. They saw, unfortunately, this dysfunctionality of other relationships that weren't so warm, and weren't so filled with feelings, affectively strong. It wasn't like that. But they overlooked it. Now, these two devotees, they're leaders in our organization now. And they're taking care of dozens and dozens of other devotees. But that happened because somebody went out of their way and was warm and friendly. Now that's just one person, it's not a group of people. Now here's another anecdote. It's just to illustrate the point. There's maybe you didn't know this, but there's an IIT in America. Illinois Institute of Technology, not India Institute of Technology, in Chicago. And it's a technology school, and so it's largely foreign students. It's like something like 70% of the students are foreign students, and of those 70%, 65% are Chinese, and 25-30% are Indian, and the rest are other people from other foreign countries and America. It's largely a foreign student base. Because it's largely a foreign student base, the Institute has a policy. Everybody that's from some other country, it's a rule. You must sign up for an apprentice position for some companies that are based in America, and those companies that are based in America, they put forward a document to the different departments of the Institute saying, we can train somebody how you practically do this or that or the other thing. So in other words, it's not an ivory tower experience, it's a hands-on practical experience. They want the foreign students to understand, here's how you do it, not just abstract, no application kind of a component. And so one of our devotees, who became a devotee at the Illinois Institute of Technology from India, he submitted an application with the marketing department from which he graduated, and the marketing was marketing of Krishna consciousness. And it was genuine and real. You know, there's a website and there's a store and there's a prasadam distribution program at the campus, Krishna lunch, and 2 or 3 other things. So the department head was really intrigued. He said, well, all the elements are here for giving you approval. There's only one concern. I don't want you to proselytize, preach, push your Krishna message. If you just do the marketing part, okay. So that's what he did. And 6 Chinese students signed up. And then at the end of the semester, they had to do 30 hours or some number of hours of volunteer service in that apprentice position. And then they had to make a report to the chairman of the department. They invited me to come and hear their report. I'll just keep it simple, but each one of them said, in different language, but when I found out, whoa, this is a religion, they had second thoughts about whether they wanted to do it or not. But then the dean encouraged them, well, go and find out, and if you're still uncomfortable, then you don't have to do it. You pick another one. So they came. They all reported this, like, uh-oh, initial apprehension. And then when they came, they reported, each one of them, 6 of them, said, it was really nice. I was expecting, uh-oh, and instead it was really nice. And it was so nice that it was like people from all different backgrounds of nationality and language and color, but they all dealt with each other like family. Positive. Then the next one was, not only they treated others like family, they treated us that way too. We were just accepted like one of them. We were just volunteers. And then the fourth one was, I learned not only about marketing, but I learned something that really made a deep impression on me. I should really have a goal of life besides making money. Because we were supposed to not proselytize, and the person kept his word. They didn't. But they understood there's something of value. There's something more important than money. Getting the education, to get the job, to get the career, to get money, so you can enjoy, fruitive activities for sense gratification. I don't know what my value is yet, but I know I really need one. That's what I've learned. Then once they finished that, then the rule of not proselytizing was over, and so they were given the opportunity, those 6 and their friends, because social networking is the way things move these days. Somebody knows somebody knows a devotee, and that somebody has 10 friends, or 15 friends, or 20 friends. It's like pulling a tissue out of a tissue box. You pull the corner of the tissue, and the whole tissue comes. You don't have to grab hold of the whole tissue, just the corner. The whole tissue comes. So if you make a relationship with someone because you're worthy of their trust, so this is the key thing, become trustworthy. You want strategic, mature, and effective outreach? Be trustworthy. Small thing. Be trustworthy. And there's different elements of trustworthiness. That's a whole other discussion. What are elements of trustworthiness? But be trustworthy, and persons, they may take some time to consider whether you're a person of integrity and worthy of their trust, but once you've earned their trust, they'll give their life or give their wealth or give their words. And then they have their network of friends. They go on Facebook or whatever the social media is of their preference and say, wow. And it works the other way too. A bad experience. Nice philosophy, but they don't live it. So if you want strategic, effective, and mature outreach, be worthy of another's trust. And work very carefully at the relationships amongst the persons who are residing at the temple full time. That's really important. And the persons who come regularly to the center, and those who they look after, and the concentric circles out. But have a culture that's worthy of others' trust, because that will attract people, not just to come one time, but to come again and again. So that's not, the initial contact, so repeating. The initial contact, you all know how to do this in India without my giving you examples. I'm emphasizing relationship and youth, and different strategies that are suitable for you and the local yatra. Second is the relationships amongst the devotees that are regular visitors, and especially those that are the greeters and the interact a lot with the guests. But please note that people observe, wow, you treat newcomers better than you treat your regulars. I think I better say a newcomer. I'll get treated better. I've had people say this. You probably have heard people say it too. Different places. But it's altogether a different message that I really want to be a committed member, because just see how they look after each other and their relationships are wholesome. Not to say that everybody's a perfect person, that's not realistic. But they have relationships that are very warm and interactive and, not going in the other direction. And then the third point, and then I'm done. The third point is something that Varda's now heard me say twice already. I'm going to say it for the third time. And that is, I thought of maybe a better way to express it. And that is placing value in training and education that has as its mandate or mission character development. Going back to our founder Acharya, his emphasis on education, specific for children's education, but it's education. It's, adult education too. The worldwide mission of ISKCON education is building character. For children, academics, yeah, that's okay. Build character. I'll just tell a little Prabhupada story on character. Prabhupada told the story of a friend of his that was a very successful businessman, and he was interviewing candidates for becoming a manager in one of his places, factories or whatever it is, his business establishments. And two people came. One had a resume that was really impressive and interacted nicely with the owner of the company, and he left. And the second man came in, didn't have the same awesome resume, and still he interacted very nicely and had nice qualities. And after the two interviews, the businessman selected the second one, and Prabhupada was surprised, or something like that, and said, "Why did you select the second one?" And he said, "Well, the second one had all kinds of credential, but I detected in his heart some pride. And when he came in, he didn't close the door." The second man was not at all proud, but alert. So he didn't have all the credentials, but he wasn't proud and he was alert, and he closed the door. That is a person I can train. The other person I think I'm going to have a struggle with because he's proud. He thinks he knows everything already. And he didn't close the door. Like just thinking about himself and not thinking about others, in other words. So Prabhupada was using this as an example that says for us to advance in Krishna consciousness and to understand who are good candidates for Krishna consciousness, they have this quality of humility. They may not know a zillion things, but they have humility and they have some culture, and they can be trained, and they can do amazing work, more so than the person that has lots of credential and is proud. And so Prabhupada noticed also those little things, the closing the door thing. It's a little thing, but it's a character thing. And outside of India, frankly, we don't notice those things, but cultured people notice those things. And culture, so passing on culture, I mentioned it yesterday, now I'm saying it again. Prabhupada's wish was for spreading Krishna consciousness worldwide was to create a class of first-class men out of Kali Yuga victims. Not easy. Super challenge. But that was his mission. And first-class men means Vaishnavas, and Vaishnavas means one who has character, just as we saw in the presentation yesterday evening. Without straightforwardness, simplicity, honesty, integrity, there's no question of being a Vaishnava. That's Bhaktisiddhanta. No question. You can do things. You can wear tilak and a dhoti or sari and say Haribol. But it's not a Vaishnava. The trappings, the markings doesn't make the Vaishnava. The character makes the Vaishnava. So starting with fundamental matters of character. So the different way that I've been saying this to Varda now, this for the third time, just as we have structures for management and administration, and having a structure or a system for that, it's very important. Otherwise it's chaotic. So we're evolving further and further in how to organize ourselves so that we can do everything nicely and cover everything. So that's not only a temple, but keep going concentric circles out, or even get smaller. How to have an effective Bhakti Vriksha group, or have an effective family, or whatever the size and position. There has to be some structure and roles and functions. So that's necessary. And some structure, deep thought, as with the management and administration thing, or component, is the training and education component. What's needed? What are the different functions? What are different roles? Who has different abilities? recognize those different abilities, support them, give further training, etc., etc. A whole other area, so that, this is number 3, so that number 2 can be accomplished. When people come, they go, wow, this is a nice place. I feel really warm about coming back again and being part of what these people are about, because I see their qualities are just wonderful. Now there can be an emphasis, I want to make this point. Many devotees know our philosophy, but don't live it. You ask them a question, they can give the answer to the question from our philosophy, but they don't live their life that way. There's some big gap between what we know and where we are in terms of our consciousness. So the inviting situation is not just information, but transformation. The lives have become transformed because of the kind of training and education they receive. That's real education, building of character. And that will take care of number 2. And then number 1, back to, reaching out to Krishna will give that intelligence. And as long as one is not inflexible, but is willing to consider, here's a possibility, here's another possibility, let's work together and explore what seem to be the best possibilities. You like strategic planning. And then stay with it. You've done strategic planning here, I'm sure. At least in the corporate world, you certainly know what strategic planning is. You don't have a successful business if you don't have strategic planning. The temple should also. And then same with this training and education, a strategic plan that takes some time with thoughtful people that are really interested in that subject and are not just interested in giving their opinion. They have their sleeves rolled up and they're ready to participate in a way that others feel that would be good for you, and put this piece together with that piece and it's good for the overall strategy. I'm suggesting that will help number 1 as well as number 2. And mature, strategic, and effective outreach is doing all those things, being committed, just as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said in that one quote that I presented last night, being committed to becoming pure in bhakti. That's our goal. Becoming dear to Krishna because of having nothing in the heart but wanting to please Krishna. And working together with others that have that in their heart, and they're perfectly prepared if there's something else in the heart to receive help and assistance and work on getting that something else out of the heart. There's only one thing left. Work together towards that goal and doing all these things. That's mature, strategic, and effective outreach. So I'm done. Hare Krishna. Now, that's part 1. Part 2 is questions and answers, and it doesn't have to be on this topic, and be anything under the sun. And it's already 9 o'clock, 3 minutes to 9. What's our cutoff time? Far to the left. In his absence, what's our cutoff time? 9:15? 9:10, 9:15? Okay, a few questions. Go ahead. Here comes a microphone. Let's see if it works.
This chapter 7 verse. There it is like that.
Speak slowly and clearly. Consider me half deaf. Okay?
Bhagavad Gita 5.7.
No, not to the whole Sanskrit. Just the English part. You're going to summarize your question.
Then Krishna says that every living entity gets influenced by what is practiced in Krishna consciousness. How does this also include those living entities?
How does it do what?
How does this also include those living entities who are feeling kind of insecure with us or not so comfortable with us?
How does that work in terms of those who are feeling insecure with us or not so inclined? Comfortable. Do you understand the question? No. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita where, paraphrasing, Krishna is saying, one who is Krishna conscious affects everybody. Something like that. So what about persons who aren't so affected? In fact, they're kind of uncomfortable. How does that work? That's your question? I'm not sure of the reference, but just in principle, let's take a look at Srila Prabhupada. Not you or me, but Srila Prabhupada. And has he interacted with people? They may not have become devotees, but most of them became impressed. Here is a saintly person. Now, Prabhupada would sometimes be confrontational, but he was selective with whom he was confrontational, guided by Super Soul, selective. And first of all, he was a person of character. He was a person of Krishna consciousness. So while persons may not have, that he interacted with, they may not have appreciated his point of view, but they understood, here's a person of strong character. I mean, one example comes to mind. Prabhupada had visited Sweden, and after he visited Sweden, he was visiting England, London. And Prabhupada was telling in a room conversation about what had happened when he was in Sweden. There was a large hall, and at the end of this program, one young man came forward and said, Swamiji, well, everything you said is very nice. I'm a Christian. I like what you said. Then Prabhupada said, immediately I said to him, you're not Christian. First time, Prabhupada, I never had met him before. First time, said, you're not Christian. And he was taken aback. Why do you say that? He said, do you accept the teachings of Christ? Yes. Did Christ say, thou shalt not kill? Yes. Are you eating meat? Yes. Then I say you're not Christian. And the Christian follows the teachings of Christ, and you're not following what he said. And the boy was speechless. But he understood that, Prabhupada didn't do that with everybody he met. We shouldn't imitate either. But inspired by Super Soul, in a selective manner, he was confrontational. And then the young man said, well, I better think about my eating of meat. But he did it so strongly, it brought that particular young man in that particular circumstance to the position of rethinking his behaviors and his habits. So there may be someone else that says, they would say, Swamiji, why you criticize people? Sadhu, you're a sadhu. You shouldn't say bad things about people. You're a sadhu. And Prabhupada would say, I'm just speaking Krishna's words. Avajananti mudha manusham tanamashatam. So I'm just speaking Krishna's words. So he wanted to break through that stereotype that a sadhu is, I'm okay, you're okay. When somebody isn't okay, to say you're okay. He wouldn't do that. That flattery isn't going to help that person go forward in their spiritual life. Now, being discriminating when to say what he said, and then Prabhupada would say, I'm an old man, I can get away with this. You cannot. Don't imitate. Because of his age. He was just saying his age. But, not only that, his pure Krishna consciousness. So, let us be known, let you personally take the position of being known as an individual that you're discriminating in how you say what you say. That is to say, you speak the truth, but, chapter 17, Bhagavad Gita, you speak the truth pleasingly. You're austere in your speaking the truth, in such a manner you speak pleasingly. Now that's for us. Then there's this, position of a great acharya. But speak pleasingly, and persons may not agree, but they hopefully will say, there's a person of integrity and good character. May not agree with your point of view on something, but strive for that in any case. In many, many circumstances, achar is more compelling than prachar. Your character, your behavior, your conduct is more convincing than what you say, is who you are. So strive like that, and be consistent like that. And that will help in this category of what you describe, people that, they're not appreciating. So let them appreciate these are people of good character. And they don't, you know where they're coming from, that is to say, they're not duplicitous, they're straightforward, but they say it in such a nice way. So strive for that. There's an art. It's not easy to do, to speak the truth to a person who's very covered, and to say the truth pleasingly. It takes a lot of finesse, a lot of empowerment from Krishna. But we can strive like that. And Krishna will give the ability. Krishna is the ability in man. One, two, three. It's a trick microphone. You have to pat it and yes. Well, that doesn't. The model of everything is based on congregation is a default. It can be different. Go ahead. Yeah, that's. Well, in that same purport that I just made reference to about speaking the truth pleasingly and austerity of speech, Prabhupada says you shouldn't instruct others unless you have that kind of relationship, like a teacher-student relationship. You shouldn't give instruction. So feedback is not exactly instruction, but it's kind of like instruction. And so this is one part answer, there's some other parts, is you can go to someone who does have that relationship and say, I'm defective, I may not have the right picture of things, but I see this nice devotee could be helpful for them to improve in such and such way. You have the relationship with them. If you see that that's the case, in the right time, in the right circumstance, please share that. And you might want to say, please keep my name confidential. You can say you can use my name. That is something that I've observed as a well-wisher. But I don't have that relationship, so if you feel that's appropriate. And another, in principle, is, I mentioned this during the seminar that I gave, but in Anuttama Prabhu, our communication director's seminar on leadership and management, he speaks specifically about feedback, and because I heard it so many times, here's the message. The purpose of feedback is, pause, improvement. So if you want to see improvement, how do you give feedback constructively? Pause. Appreciation. Appreciation. Room for improvement. Appreciation. Because what are we looking for? Improvement. We're not fault-finding. We're looking for, in the mood of humble service, let me be of some assistance to you in helping together, let us work together to improve the effectiveness of our offerings of service to Krishna. If that's genuinely the mood, then it won't be taken as, oh, you've hurt me. If you care about me and you understand, this appreciation thing. It's there in, the principle is there in Prabodhananda Saraswati's, Prabodhananda Saraswati? Lived in Vrindavan for some time, the brother of Venkatabhatta from Sri Rangam, moved to Vrindavan, wrote literature on Vrindavan Mahimamrita and Chaitanya Chandramrita. So about Lord Chaitanya, he said, Prabhupada referred to this many times, of one long verse that says, "My dear sir, you are very intelligent. You are highly qualified." And hearing this, the person says, "Oh, here's an intelligent man. They really understand me. I'm very intelligent, I'm very learned, I'm very qualified. Yes, what is it you have to say?" And then Prabodhananda Saraswati says, "For a moment, set aside all this rubbish that you've thought you've learned and understand, and try to appreciate the very unique, special quality of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the gift that he's come to give. Just for a moment, try like that." So that's, Prabodhananda Saraswati's humor, but it's the principle. And especially in the devotee community, when we're dealing with others and wish to offer feedback, we may be reluctant. So go to a superior that has that skill and the relationship. Or, if one isn't so reluctant, then first show the other person that you care about them. So one of the rules, this is the third point, one of the rules of communication is first seek to understand before trying to be understood. It's a rule of communication. So before you give feedback to the person, you can, if you want to, one thing you can do is say, "My dear Prabhu, I heard, I may have not properly heard you, but I heard you say, or I saw you do such and such. I may have misunderstood. Is that what you said? And is that what you did? Did I get it right?" And then you hear from them. "Well, it's not really what I said. I may have said like that, but what I meant was," or let them do their editing and whatever it is. Show that you trust and respect them. And then you can understand from them where they're coming from. And then you can, appreciation, room for improvement. So that takes time. And frankly, someone may not want to do that because the person may not understand where you're coming from, and it may harm the relationship, and so just be silent. And then, you remain silent, but the thought is there, and the feeling is there, and that comes out because you're thinking and feeling something, and the other person sees you being a little guarded, and they think, something, and they feel something, and then it just kind of escalates and escalates. Then it sometimes explodes. Or the other person speaks something about you to one of their friends and says, what's wrong with this person? They're so cold. Dissension grows because of not communicating respectfully. So the core of any relationship, we'll say it positive and then negative. The core of any relationship is respect. The negative is, without respect, there's no question of a relationship of any kind. Dysfunctional. Respect. So when giving feedback, it's, at the get-go, it's respect. And if the other person feels that there's respect, not just say it, but it's what you feel, respect, they can receive the feedback much more easily. And then you can have dialogue on the point of feedback so that you may become more educated or they may become more educated and your relationship becomes stronger. And then later they can offer feedback to you because there's some trust that's been established. So again, circling back around to the discussion before, trustworthiness is essential. The first business for you or me or any one of us is to be worthy of another's trust. Work on that, over here, before working on that over there. That's character, or integrity, or honesty and straightforwardness, and just grow that. And then when you offer feedback, it won't be taken as an insult or fault-finding or criticism, because you're not that kind of a person. Yes? Congratulations, you got it to work.
I have a philosophical question.
Which?
Philosophical question.
Philosophical question, all right.
Like,
It's 9:15, by the way.
Maharaja gets his answer from Lord Maharaja through Tirukachinapi in Kanchipuram. Like 6 answers are given by Lord.
Yeah. What was given by God? 6 questions. 6 questions. Ramanuja had these questions. Lord gave answers. I used to be familiar with this, and it's kind of like not, my memory bank can't access this. I've forgotten.
It's just Lord says that surrender is the way to
Surrender is the way. Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharanagati is the way.
Sharanagati.
Quoting this, they say that there are only 2 ways to attain God. One is bhakti, like that is prayer.
Yeah.
The other is Sharanagati, surrender, which is they quote Bhagavad Gita Slokam.
Sarvadharma.
Yeah, Sarvadharma. So what they say is like chanting Nama Sankirtana can help to attain either of these 2.
Yes.
And may not be that alone cannot be the way.
Well, alone by that means there's quality of consciousness that the effect will be less or more depending upon the quality of consciousness. There's benefit even if one is a tree hearing the sound, or an insect hearing the sound. There's benefit, but to get full benefit requires being attentive and having proper sambandha gyan and so forth. So there's degrees of benefit. To get full benefit, that must be there. Consciousness, presence with proper conception, sambandha gyan, conception. That comes from good association. in the human form of life, and living one's life accordingly, being guided by that proper knowledge towards the goal. Okay? So the answer to your question is yes, but it's not, the full effect can't be achieved without the others. There are people that chant these days, and previous days too, but these days people that chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and there are all kinds of things. Material, they see it as karmakanda, or they see it as becoming one with God. They see it all kinds of different ways. They don't have proper sambandha again, so they're not going to get the proper benefit. Bhakti is absent. They can even say bhakti, but it's not bhakti. It's something else. Okay? 1, 2, and then we're going to end. 1, and then 2, in front of you.
So, Hare Krishna Maharaj,
You're going to read your question. You're going to read your question?
the question is, in
Yesterday's
yesterday's class,
class.
you were emphasizing on how we should live as an example of Jiva Goswami's teachings, and that becomes a little easier when we see those examples like in front of us. That acts as a very good inspiration for us.
Well, you don't imitate, you follow the example of. I mean, Prabhupada is our founder acharya, but within the presentation of Jiva Goswami, he's elucidating the scriptural teaching. Here's a passage Prabhupada said, just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can become perfect. Then, and if one studies very carefully the Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami, the messages of the Srimad Bhagavatam will become far more clear and lucid, and will help one advance on the path of pure devotion when hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's our founder acharya. So, saying you're repeating what I said doesn't discount any, what Prabhupada said. It's part of what Prabhupada said. It's part of what our founder acharya said. Become purified by receiving the message of Srimad Bhagavatam properly. And this will help us. That's all. Is that all right?
Some point on that. So we should take responsibility of our. So sometimes we anchor for that association more, and we try to get that.
Well, you can get it through sound. Bani. The sound can be in person, or can be recorded, or it can be transcribed in a literature form. That way you can get association. Just like hearing Ram Katha. You get Ram's association by hearing Ram Katha, and you develop quality and character like Ram just by hearing Ramayana. Yes? You can associate with him and his loving associates. Just like this, Ramanujacharya question over here. And his wonderful associates. Just by hearing about them. That's Vani, sound vibration. It carries us to that place of consciousness through sound. We just have to have our receivers on. And a good broadcaster.
Prior to your visit, we had circulated a message saying devotees can write their questions. So some devotee who wants to be anonymous has asked this question.
This is an online question? Okay. Last question, by the way.
He says that from the Narasimha seminar, he understands that offenses are more serious than sinful activities.
Offenses are more serious than sinful activity
As they affect the soul.
as they affect the soul.
Then is it not better to be a non-devotee where chances of making offenses are less?
Translate that one, Varada. No. It's not better to be a non-devotee than to be a devotee that may make some mistakes. Better to be a devotee that knows if I make mistakes, I'm going to be responsible for those mistakes. So let me be very diligent in avoiding the offenses that then create the anarthas that cause the problem. Take the medicine because of the disease. And it's not exactly there's side effects of the medicine, it's take the medicine properly. And in the beginning, we don't know how to do anything properly, so we're going to make mistakes. But learn carefully, be carefully guided by somebody who knows where the mistakes are. There's the curve in the road, and watch out for that pothole, and whatever are the other warnings of get to your destination safely and carefully. So have proper guides. And if you start going in the direction that's in the offense direction, they just have to tap you on the shoulder and say, get back to the middle of the road because you're headed for the ditch. Oh, thank you. So be in a position where you're receiving good guidance. Without good guidance, how are we going to reach the destination? But so don't stay at home in Maya. Go take the journey to Krishna with proper guidance, knowing that I may make some wrong turns and so forth, but I'm going to keep careful guidance and follow the process as best I can. Okay, thank you very much, Prabhupada Ki Jai.